There is a fundamental shift that happens the moment you realize your worth. It's not just a passing thought or a temporary feeling. It's a deep, unshakable truth that once recognized changes the way you move through life. When you finally understand that you were never meant to be an option but the prize, everything around you begins to shift. It's not about arrogance, nor is it about proving anything to anyone. It's about coming to terms with the fact that you deserve more than what you've been settling for. For too long, people live their lives in a state of compromise, tolerating situations that diminish their value rather than elevate it. It happens so subtly that you don't even notice it at first. A little compromise here, a little excuse there. You tell yourself that maybe they're just busy. Maybe they just need time. Maybe if you show them how much you care, they'll realize your worth. But what you don't see in those moments is that every time you make excuses for someone who doesn't prioritize you, you are reinforcing the belief that you are okay with being an option. It's not your love that makes you an option. It's not your kindness, your patience, or your willingness to give. It's the fact that you have allowed yourself to remain in spaces where you are not fully valued, and that is where the shift must take place. Because when you truly recognize your worth, you no longer fight for a seat at tables that were never built for you. You no longer lower your standards just to make others comfortable. You no longer beg for love, attention, or validation from people who don't have the capacity to give it to you. But here's the problem. Most people don't know their worth. They have been conditioned by past experiences, by childhood wounds, by societal standards, by toxic relationships, to believe that they have to prove themselves to be chosen. And so they chase. They overextend. They shrink themselves just to fit into someone else's narrative. They accept the bare minimum, all in the hopes that one day someone will wake up and finally see their value. But the truth is, nobody is going to see your worth until you do. People can only treat you at the level that you treat yourself. If you make yourself available at all times, if you continue to tolerate disrespect, if you keep saying it's okay when it's not, then what message are you sending? You're telling the world that you don't require more, that you are fine with the scraps of attention, the half-hearted love, the inconsistent effort. And that is why the cycle repeats. Realizing your worth is not just about affirmations or surface level confidence. It's a deep internal shift. It is a knowing, a certainty that you are enough just as you are, that you are not here to be an afterthought, that you are not an option for someone to pick up and put down whenever they feel like it. The moment you step into this realization, everything starts to change. The way you carry yourself changes. The way you respond to people changes. You no longer entertain empty words, you look for action. You no longer hold on to potential, you focus on reality. You no longer fear walking away from people who cannot see your value because you understand that keeping the wrong people around only delays the arrival of the right ones. And here's the interesting part. The moment you stop settling, people start noticing. The ones who once took you for granted begin to wonder why you're no longer available. The ones who treated you as an option start to realize they are losing access to something rare. And that's when they start chasing. That's when they start coming back with apologies, with explanations, with sudden bursts of effort. But by the time they realize what they had, it's already too late. Because once you've stepped into your worth, there is no going back to the version of you that accepted less. This realization isn't just about relationships. It extends into every aspect of life. It affects the way you approach your career, your friendships, your opportunities. When you know your worth, you stop waiting for permission. You stop seeking validation. You stop trying to convince people that you belong, because you know you do. And when you walk into a room with that energy, people can feel it. They can sense the difference between someone who is unsure of themselves and someone who knows exactly who they are. But it's not enough to just say you know your worth. You have to act on it. That means setting boundaries and actually enforcing them. That means saying no without feeling guilty. That means refusing to entertain anything that does not align with what you truly deserve. It's easy to talk about self-worth, but it's another thing to embody it in every choice you make. And sometimes that's the hardest part. Because when you finally decide to value yourself, it often means leaving behind the people, places, and habits that once felt familiar. It means standing alone for a while. It means being okay with the discomfort of growth. But that is the price of elevation. You cannot stay in the same place and expect a different outcome. You cannot keep choosing the same people and wonder why you feel unfulfilled. You have to be willing to make the hard choices, to walk away, to demand more. And in doing so, you send a message, not just to the world, but to yourself. You tell yourself that you are worthy of real love, real effort, real commitment. You remind yourself that you don't have to beg for the things that are meant for you. You teach yourself that your value is not determined by who chooses you, but by who you choose. There comes a time in life when you have to make a decision that will define how you are treated moving forward. That decision is the power to walk away. It is not always an easy choice, and it rarely comes without pain, but it is a necessary one. Walking away is not about ego, pride, or manipulation. It is about self-respect. It is about recognizing when something no longer serves you, when a person no longer values you, and when a situation is holding you back from becoming the person you are meant to be. Most people hesitate when it comes to walking away. They tell themselves that if they just hold on a little longer, things might change. Maybe the person will realize their worth. Maybe they will wake up and start treating them differently. Maybe they will come to their senses and finally see what has been in front of them all along. But this is the trap. This is the cycle that keeps people stuck, waiting, hoping, excusing, tolerating. The longer you wait, the deeper you sink. The more you tolerate, the more they take you for granted. And the moment you become predictable in your patience, they learn that they can mistreat you without consequence. There is something that happens the moment you decide to walk away. It shifts the dynamic entirely. The person who once saw you as an option suddenly feels your absence. The one who dismissed your feelings, ignored your needs, and treated you as replaceable now faces the reality of your silence. Because as long as you are present, as long as you keep giving chances, as long as you continue to accept their lack of effort, they will never truly appreciate what they have. It is human nature to only value what we think we might lose. People do not cherish what is always available. They do not respect what they believe they can mistreat without consequence. But the moment you remove yourself from the equation, the power shifts. Now they are left to wonder. Now they are left to question. Now they are forced to deal with the reality that you are no longer there. And that realization hits harder than any words you could ever say. Walking away is not just about teaching them a lesson. It is about teaching yourself a lesson. It is about proving to yourself that you are no longer willing to settle for less than you deserve. It is about breaking the cycle of chasing, begging, waiting, and hoping for someone to give you what should have been freely given from the start. It is about standing firm in the belief that if they truly valued you, they would have never put you in a position where you had to question your worth in the first place. The hardest part about walking away is fighting the urge to turn back. There will be moments of weakness, moments where you wonder if you made the right choice, moments where nostalgia creeps in, and you start remembering only the good times. But you must remind yourself why you left in the first place. You must remember the sleepless nights, the unanswered messages, the broken promises, the feeling of being second, third, or last on their list of priorities. You must remember that if they truly cared, they would have never made you feel like an option to begin with. When you walk away, something shifts within you. You regain your sense of self. You start seeing things more clearly. You begin to realize that the love you were chasing was never the love you truly needed. And with every day that passes, you grow stronger. You stop looking for closure because you realize that the closure was in the way they treated you. You stop wondering if they will come back because you recognize that it doesn't matter anymore. You stop waiting for an apology because you understand that true healing doesn't come from their words. It comes from your decision to move on. Most people fear walking away because they fear losing something. But what they don't realize is that they are not losing anything of real value. What they are losing is the illusion of something that was never real. If it were real, it would not require you to beg for it. If it were real, you would not have to convince someone to see your worth. Real love, real effort, real connection, these things do not require force. They flow naturally. They come effortlessly. And when you walk away, the people who never valued you will begin to feel what they once ignored. They will start to feel the weight of your absence, the silence of your presence no longer there. They will begin to understand what it feels like to be without someone who once gave everything without hesitation. And that is when they will regret. That is when they will reflect. That is when they will realize that they took for granted something they may never find again. There is something deeply transformative about silence. It is one of the most powerful tools you have, yet so many underestimate its impact. When people think of power, they often imagine loud voices, strong words, and grand actions. But true power, the kind that shifts dynamics and demands respect, often comes in the form of silence. It is not passive. It is not weak. It is intentional. It is controlled. It is the most effective way to communicate without saying a single word. When you remove your presence, when you stop explaining, when you stop seeking validation, people start to notice. The ones who once ignored you suddenly feel the void. The ones who treated you as an option now realize that you were never meant to be one. Because silence forces reflection. It forces people to sit with their own actions, to deal with their own choices. As long as you are engaging, as long as you are responding, as long as you are pleading for them to see your worth, you are giving them the luxury of knowing they still have access to you. But the moment you go silent, the power shifts. People are wired to chase what they feel they are losing. It is human nature. We do not appreciate what is constantly available, what is easily accessible, what is always within reach. But when something is taken away, when something is suddenly out of grasp, that is when the mind starts to work differently. That is when people begin to realize what they once had but failed to value. Silence is the absence that speaks louder than any words ever could. When you decide to stop responding, stop explaining, stop justifying, you are no longer feeding their ego. You are no longer giving them the satisfaction of knowing they can still affect you. And this is where the power lies. Because as long as you are talking, as long as you are defending yourself, as long as you are trying to make them understand, they know they still have influence over you. But when you go silent, when you pull back, when you make yourself unreachable, that is when they start to feel the weight of their actions. Most people fear silence. They fear being forgotten. They fear that if they do not fight for a response, they will lose the connection altogether. But what they do not realize is that silence does not mean you are forgotten. It means you are being remembered in a different way. It means that instead of being seen as someone who is always available, always forgiving, always waiting, you are now being viewed as someone who is strong enough to walk away without needing to explain. And that is where real power is born. When you embrace silence, you are no longer reacting, you are controlling. You are shifting the narrative. You are making it clear that you will not beg for what should be freely given. And this is where regret begins to form. Because now, instead of being the person who was always there, always reaching out, always trying, you become the one who got away. And that is a position that leaves a lasting impact. People remember silence more than they remember words. They replay moments in their heads, wondering why you stopped trying, why you stopped responding, why you stopped caring. They begin to question themselves in ways they never did when you were always available. They start to wonder if they made a mistake. And this is what forces them to reflect, to rethink, to regret. Because silence forces them to deal with themselves. When you go silent, you give them nothing to push against. No arguments, no pleading, no emotional reactions, just the weight of your absence. And that weight is heavier than any words you could ever say, because now, instead of defending themselves against your words, they are left to battle their own thoughts, their own guilt, their own realizations. Silence is not about playing games. It is not about manipulation. It is about self-respect. It is about choosing to step back rather than continuously engaging in a cycle that leads nowhere. It is about recognizing that your energy is valuable, and if someone cannot appreciate it, they do not deserve access to it. And here is the truth. The moment you go silent is the moment they start listening. The moment you stop chasing is the moment they start wondering. The moment you remove your presence is the moment they feel what it is like to be without you. And that realization is far more powerful than anything you could have ever said. Self-worth is not something that can be given by others. It is not something you should seek outside of yourself. The moment you rely on external validation to feel valuable, you give away your power. You allow others to dictate how you feel about yourself, how you move through life, and how you perceive your own importance. This is where so many people get trapped, waiting for someone else to recognize their worth, waiting for someone else to treat them the way they deserve, waiting for someone else to confirm what they should already know deep within. But waiting is a dangerous game, because the more you wait, the more you allow yourself to be treated as an option. The more you wait, the more you settle. And settling is the first step toward losing yourself. People will only treat you in a way that you permit. If you allow yourself to be placed last, they will continue to put you last. If you accept minimal effort, they will never feel the need to give more. If you tolerate disrespect, it becomes the standard. And the hardest truth to accept is that no one will ever see your worth if you do not see it first. It is not their job to recognize what you bring to the table. It is not their responsibility to make you feel important. That is your job. That is your responsibility. Because when you truly know your worth, you stop begging people to see it. You stop explaining yourself. You stop waiting for the moment when they finally wake up and realize how valuable you are. Instead, you shift your focus inward. You step into your own power. You choose yourself. Choosing yourself is not about arrogance. It is not about thinking you are better than others. It is about understanding that your time, your energy, your presence, all of these things are valuable and they should be treated as such. But too many people spend their lives giving all of their energy to those who do not appreciate it. They pour themselves into relationships, friendships, and situations that only drain them, hoping that one day the effort will be reciprocated. But that is not how self-worth works. Self-worth is not built on the hope that someone else will finally appreciate you. It is built on the realization that you deserve appreciation whether they see it or not. There is nothing more powerful than a person who has fully embraced their own worth. When you walk into a room with the confidence of someone who does not need validation, people notice. When you no longer chase after those who once ignored you, they feel it. When you stop explaining why you deserve better and simply walk away from what does not serve you, you shift the entire dynamic. Because now you are no longer waiting for someone to decide that you are worthy of their time. You are deciding that for yourself. This is the moment where everything changes. The moment you start valuing yourself, the people who once overlooked you begin to see you differently. The ones who treated you as an option now feel the weight of your absence. The ones who thought you would always be there suddenly realize they may never have access to you again. Because self-worth does not ask for permission. It does not wait for approval. It does not negotiate. It simply exists. And those who do not recognize it are left behind. One of the biggest mistakes people make is thinking that proving their worth to someone will make them stay. They think that if they just give a little more, try a little harder, explain a little better, the other person will finally understand. But the truth is, the more you try to prove yourself to someone who refuses to see your value, the more you diminish your own self-worth. Love, respect, and appreciation are not things that should have to be proven. They should be natural. They should be given freely. And if someone cannot see your worth without you having to fight for it, then they were never meant to be in your life in the first place. There is a reason why people suddenly start respecting you the moment you start respecting yourself. Because now you are setting the standard. You are making it clear that you will not accept anything less than what you deserve. You are showing the world that your presence is a privilege, not a guarantee. And those who do not rise to meet that standard will simply fall away. Many people fear this shift. They fear losing connections. They fear what will happen if they stop chasing, stop explaining, stop proving. But what they do not realize is that anything that is lost in the process of embracing your self-worth was never truly meant for you. The right people, the ones who truly see you, will never require you to convince them of your value. They will know it, they will feel it, they will treat you accordingly. Because when you truly know your worth, you stop entertaining anything that makes you feel like you are not. Emotional detachment is one of the most powerful skills a person can develop, yet it is also one of the most misunderstood. People often confuse it with indifference, as if detaching means you no longer care, but that is not what it is. Emotional detachment is not about shutting yourself off from the world or suppressing your feelings. It is about gaining control over those feelings, about refusing to let your emotions dictate your actions, about making decisions from a place of strength rather than weakness. Because the moment you allow your emotions to control you, you hand over your power. And the people who once took you for granted, they thrived on your emotional investment. They thrived on knowing that they could affect you, that they could stir your emotions, that they could keep you hooked through highs and lows. The moment you take that away, everything changes. When you become emotionally detached, you stop reacting to every little thing. You stop seeking closure from people who were never capable of giving it to you. You stop waiting for explanations, apologies, or acknowledgments that may never come. Because the truth is, some people will never give you the answers you are looking for. Not because they do not know them, but because they do not want to give them to you. Some people will never apologize. Not because they do not realize what they did, but because they do not want to give you that sense of resolution. And the more you chase that, the more you keep yourself locked in a cycle of pain and disappointment. Emotional detachment frees you from that cycle. It allows you to let go without needing to understand every detail. It allows you to move forward without waiting for anyone else to catch up. There is an incredible power in learning to observe without absorbing. You can witness someone's actions, recognize their patterns, see them for exactly who they are, and choose not to let it affect you. This does not mean you ignore red flags. It does not mean you tolerate poor treatment. It means you see everything clearly, but instead of reacting, you respond. Instead of being emotionally triggered, you remain in control. Because when you react emotionally, you are predictable. You are easy to manipulate. The people who once underestimated you counted on your reactions. They counted on your emotions, clouding your judgment. They counted on you being so invested in proving yourself, in proving your worth, that you would never walk away completely. But emotional detachment is the moment you take back control. It is the moment you stop giving people the satisfaction of knowing they can still get a reaction out of you. It is the moment they start wondering why you no longer respond the way you used to. And that is when they begin to feel the shift. The most valuable thing you can learn is that your emotions are yours to manage. No one should have the ability to disrupt your peace unless you allow them to. No one should have the power to ruin your day, your mood, or your sense of self-worth. Emotional detachment is not about pretending you do not feel. It is about choosing which emotions you allow to influence your decisions. It is about recognizing that you do not have to engage with every situation, that you do not have to respond to every provocation, that you do not have to fight battles that are beneath you. Because some battles are exactly that, distractions designed to pull you away from your true path. When you master emotional detachment, you stop taking things personally. You stop overanalyzing every little detail. You stop replaying conversations in your head, wondering what you could have said or done differently. You stop torturing yourself over people who never even took the time to consider how their actions affected you. Because at the end of the day, their actions are a reflection of them, not you. How someone treats you is a reflection of who they are. How you respond is a reflection of who you choose to be. The moment you emotionally detach, you create a distance that forces people to see you differently. They start to realize that they no longer have the same hold over you. They start to feel the absence of your reactions, your emotions, your energy. And that absence is powerful. Because most people do not realize what they had until it is gone. They do not recognize the value of someone's presence until that presence is no longer available. And when you remove your emotional investment, they feel it in ways they never expected. Emotional detachment allows you to walk away without anger, without resentment, without regret. It allows you to move forward without looking back. It allows you to release yourself from the weight of past disappointments and focus on what truly matters. Your growth, your peace, your future. Because at the end of the day, the most important thing you can protect is your energy. And when you learn to detach emotionally, you take back every ounce of energy that was once wasted on people and situations that never deserved it in the first place. The most profound transformation happens when you shift your focus entirely onto yourself. When you stop looking outward for validation, approval, or recognition, and instead start pouring all of that energy into your own growth, your own success, your own well-being. Because the truth is, no one is coming to save you. No one is going to suddenly wake up and decide to give you the life you deserve. No one is going to step in and do the work for you. If you want a different life, if you want to rise above the pain of being treated as an option, you have to take full responsibility for your future. You have to stop waiting for change and start creating it. you have to become the person who no longer needs to prove their worth to anyone, because their worth is already solidified with. The moment you decide to focus on yourself is the moment everything shifts. People who once overlooked you will start to notice. People who once took you for granted will start to wonder why you are no longer available. And the irony is, it is not because you are trying to make them notice. It is because you have truly let go. You have redirected all the energy that was once wasted on seeking their validation and have instead invested it in yourself. You are no longer chasing. You are no longer waiting. You are no longer hoping for people to change. Instead, you are building the life you deserve. And in doing so, you become the one they never should have underestimated. When you focus on yourself, you elevate, you grow, you transform. And when you grow, you naturally outgrow people who are not meant for you. This is the part that many people fear, losing the connections that once felt so important. But what they fail to realize is that those connections were only important because of who they were at that time. As you elevate, as you evolve, you will find that certain relationships no longer fit. The people who once had access to you will no longer align with your mindset, your goals, or your energy. And that is a good thing, because growth requires shedding. It requires releasing everything that no longer serves you. It requires understanding that you cannot take everyone with you on your journey to success. Some people were only meant to be part of your past, not your future. The beauty of focusing on yourself is that it leads to an unshakable confidence. Confidence that does not come from external praise or recognition, but from the deep inner knowing that you are enough, that you are capable, that you do not need anyone else to complete you, because you are already whole. And that confidence is magnetic. The moment you step into your power, the moment you carry yourself with an energy of self-assurance, people feel it. They sense the shift. They see the difference. And suddenly, the ones who once made you feel like an option are now the ones questioning their own decisions. They are now the ones realizing what they lost. But by the time they do, you will have already moved so far ahead that their absence no longer affects you. Focusing on yourself does not mean isolating yourself. It does not mean cutting off the world or becoming cold and distant. It means prioritizing your own well-being above all else. It means setting boundaries and sticking to them. It means making choices that align with your goals and not compromising for the sake of temporary validation. It means valuing your time, your energy, your peace, and refusing to waste it on anything or anyone that does not add to your growth. Because when you truly value yourself, you stop tolerating anything that diminishes you. You stop settling for situations that drain you. You stop allowing people to play games with your emotions. There is nothing more powerful than a person who has mastered the art of self-focus. Because that kind of person does not seek revenge. They do not waste time trying to prove a point. They do not look back wondering what could have been. They simply move forward, fully invested in their own journey. And in doing so, they become untouchable. Because when your focus is on yourself, external opinions lose their power over you. You no longer need people to see your worth because you already see it yourself. You no longer need closure because your growth has already provided it. You no longer need to explain why you walked away because your success speaks for itself. People always notice when you stop needing them. They feel the shift when your energy is no longer directed at them, and that is when they start to chase, but by then you are too far ahead to even care. Because you have built something greater than their validation. You have built a life where you are your own priority. And nothing is more powerful than that.